My name is Don Bernstein, and I'm part of the Alumni Relations team at Biola University. And on the call tonight, we have a few other Alumni Relations team members. Lily and Quinn are here. Will you ladies wave so everyone can see you? There's Lily, there's Quinn. Awesome, thanks. Well, we are glad that you've joined tonight's session. Tonight, we are partnering with Biola's Career Center to bring you a discussion about networking. We've got three great alumni with us, and I think you'll enjoy their stories. I think you'll learn from their stories, and hopefully you will be inspired tonight. So let's jump right in. Tonight's theme verse comes from Ecclesiastes 10 and verse 10, and I will read it for you. In the New Living Translation, it says, using a dull axe requires great strength, so sharpen your blade. That's the value of wisdom. It helps you succeed. And so congratulations to each of you who are on the call tonight, because that's what we're here to do. We're all here wanting to learn and grow and sharpen our networking blades so that the work can be a little bit easier and more successful. So before we get started, allow me to pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the technology that allows us to gather tonight. We thank you for Biola University that connects us. And Father, most of all, we thank you for your son, Jesus. I pray tonight that our attendees, our panelists, and our hosts all can work together to really glorify you and just have an enjoyable, growing time. And Father, we just trust you and we love you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Well, in a minute, our panelists are going to introduce themselves. But first, we just have two very simple instructions to help make our time together the best that it can be. So first, feel free to use the chat feature if you'd like to comment or ask a question at any time. We've received a bunch of good questions from you when you registered, and we may not get to all the questions tonight, but by the end of the week, we will send you an email that has a link to re-listen to the recording, has answers to every question that you've submitted in addition to the ones that we get to tonight. All right. Also, if you have your camera on at any time, feel free to nod your head, wave so that we know there's live people out there, but it's fine to use your profile picture too. And then lastly, we are recording this session, as I mentioned, so that we can share it publicly with other alumni who couldn't be on with us tonight. And with that, let's get started. I will introduce our host for the evening. Tonight, we have Tiffany Lee, who is the Director of Career Development and Success at Biola.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Don. We are so excited to be partnering with Alumni Relations to bring you this really relevant discussion tonight about networking from a distance. We're going to be hearing from three outstanding Biola alumni tonight. They are going to just really bless you with their experience, their expertise. They each come from different backgrounds, different career journeys, different places in their journey, and they're going to really, I think, help us all learn more about networking and how to do it, especially during this time where we're disconnected from each other and from the potential employers that we might want to get more connected with. So tonight I'm gonna have our panelists introduce themselves: Cassandra Thompson, Randa Hinton, and Rob Stevenson. Cassandra, Rob, Randa, thank you guys so much for being here. Will you each introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your career journey, maybe start with when you graduated from Biola, what you majored in, and where you've gone from there. Cassandra?
The space bar doesn't work for me on the muting, so it always takes me a second. Sorry. So hi, everyone. My name is Cassandra Thompson. I graduated from Biola in 2004 with a degree in business. I took that and worked in marketing for Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, and then transferred over to the casting side and worked casting contestants for Wheel of Fortune and then producing them day of show for 6 years. So yes, you too can go to college to teach people how to do that for a living, and did a couple of other casting jobs in television. And then the thing I had always thought, oh, if I could go back if I could do it again, if I could have a second career, I would go work with college students and help them on their career journey, because it was, so fun and confusing. So I went back to school, got my master's degree in higher education and student affairs at Baylor University in Texas. And currently I am a career consultant and speaker. I have my own YouTube channel, Cass Thompson Career Advice, as well as I work at Cal State Fullerton down the road as the career specialist for the College of Communications. So happy to be with you all.
Awesome. Thank you. Randa?
Hi guys, I'm Randa Hinton. I graduated from Biola in 2013. So started in the last kind of career depression way back in 2009. I am currently looking for jobs, just like I assume many of you are. I just finished my master's at USC. I got a master in communications, and my background is in journalism, nonprofit communication, and events. I've lived in the LA area now for 10 years. And I've been doing a lot of networking on LinkedIn. I've done about 80 informational interviews since COVID hit, using LinkedIn as a tool. And I recently started a podcast called Opportunity Unknown about being a COVID job seeker, and have kind of been just outlining my job process with a friend and sharing some tips that we've been using along the way.
Awesome. Thank you. Rob?
Yeah, I graduated from Biola with a BA in history in 2009. Like Randa, I also went back to grad school at the University of Southern California, did my MBA there, and I'm currently a senior financial analyst at Intel in Portland, Oregon. I live up here with my wife, our 3 kids, soon to be 4 in a couple of weeks here. Doing finance.
Yeah, and Rob, you have a little bit of an interesting background with having some military experience and
Right.
changing career fields. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I graduated, like I said, from Biola in 2009. So I think January 2009. So I think we'd have to go back and look at the statistics. But I think my graduation date was the peak of unemployment over the last 70 years until now. But I was blessed in that I already had a full-time offer from the United States Marine Corps, but for funding reasons, the start date for that was pushed back. So I actually had about a year and a half of hanging out in the La Mirada area, looking for work in a pretty similar environment to this one, and making the best use of the time. From there, I spent 8 years in the Marines and then went back to grad school.
Awesome. Thank you. So as you guys can see, our panelists come from unique backgrounds. They're going to share what they've learned over the years about networking and what they're currently learning about networking and how they're advising other people to network during this time. So we are also wanting to hear a little bit more about those of you that are joining us. So we're going to do a quick poll. All right. And Quinn is going to bring that poll up. You're going to see that there. Okay. All right, so our first question is, when did you graduate from Biola? So take about 10 seconds to kind of choose your bracket and fill that out, and then we'll go on to the next question. All right, and then are you currently job searching? And then number 3, do you use LinkedIn regularly? Yes, at least weekly, somewhat, at least once a month. No, I don't see its value, or I don't know what LinkedIn is. Okay. All right, question. And then the last question is, how do you feel about networking? I don't really know what it is, unsure how to feel about it. I feel fairly comfortable, but I'm unsure how to do it remotely. Or networking feels awkward and gives me anxiety. Looks like that one's a popular one. Or I love networking. All right, looks like we're close to everybody finishing. All right, that's it. All right, Quinn, can we see the results there? All right, So we have the majority of our attendees there graduated within the last 5 years. And then we have, looks like a handful between 2010 and 2014, and then a couple before that. So yeah, a good number of our young alum, it looks like, are attending today. Are you currently job searching? It looks like about half and half. Great. And so I just commend those of you that aren't currently job searching for being on the call tonight, just to learn and keep building your career skills, keep sharpening your axe, as Don read from the verse for tonight. Do you use LinkedIn regularly? We see, yeah, the majority of you, yes, at least weekly or at least once a month. Great. So excited that you guys are on there. How do you feel about it? Definitely, a lot of you are saying that you have anxiety, it feels awkward. And then a number of you just want to learn more about how to do it remotely. Awesome. Well, thank you all for giving us that insight into who you are. It might help us in how we answer our questions here going forward. All right, so we're going to jump into our panel questions. We're going to start out by, most of you, it seems like are maybe somewhat familiar with networking, but let's start out by kind of creating a baseline here and talk about what networking actually is. And so I know a lot of you feel anxiety over it. Oftentimes just the word networking elicits some pretty strong negative emotions, whether it be anxiety or self-doubt or just fear. Cassandra, as a career coach and kind of our expert here, can you tell us about what is networking and how do we reframe it for ourselves so that it doesn't elicit those negative responses?
Yeah, so I will be very transparent that when I was in college, I hated the word networking. You heard I went to work in television. Everyone knew I wanted to work in film or television and said, oh, it's all about who you know. And I hated that. It sounded like I was using people. It wasn't earning it on merit. Until somebody came into my intro to mass media class and shared her story of her career journey. And I realized through what she was sharing, oh, networking is relationship building. Networking gets you in the door. You still have to earn the job. You still have to have the merit and the skills to do the job, but those ties give you the opportunity. But it's not using somebody, it's building relationships. So often when I'm talking with clients and students, I'll say, they'll say, oh, I'm looking for a job and nothing's happening. And I'll say, well, how much have you been networking? And every single time, literally, it's shocking to me that every single time when I say, how much have you been networking? They'll go, oh, I haven't been to any events. Now, granted, we're now in a COVID world, but I haven't been to any events. I haven't gotten any business cards. And I think, no, that's not networking. That's the start of networking. That's getting a business card. That's not networking. Networking is something that happens over time. And so I really want you to reframe it as it's building a relationship. Now, some are going to be really close and you're going to end up, there are people that I started networking with that are now close friends and we text every day. And there are people that I send a holiday card to once a year, right? Like there's varying levels, but I think it's about going in with kind of no expectations and just building that relationship. Rob's going to talk more about strategy, and I fully believe in strategy, but I would say no matter who you're building the relationship with, you kind of have to go in with no expectation except I'm just going to get to know this person, and when we can help each other, we'll help each other. So
yeah, that's
that would
great.
be the starting point.
I love that reframing and making it much more relational than about using somebody, and that takes away a lot of the anxiety and the guilt even about reaching out and asking someone for something. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Rob, I know about half of the viewers here are currently job searching and half are not. Can you tell us a little bit more about what networking looks like in those various spaces?
Sure. Yeah, I think the only thing I'd really have to add to what Cassandra said was that it's helpful to make the distinction between networking and network building a network. And what I really mean there is networking is for those, 45% of folks on the call who are looking for a job right now. When I say networking, what I really mean is looking for a specific person for a specific reason. So somebody at a particular company that you want to get a job at so that you can learn more about it, so that you can understand what they're hiring for, looking for a specific person for a specific reason. In contrast to simply getting to know people, staying in touch with them, doing things for them when you can to be a good guy, and then staying in touch. So really, one of these is mostly about other people, and being a friend, being gregarious, and staying in touch with people. And the other is about specifically trying to get something. There's nothing wrong with this. And if you're one of those 45% of people looking for a job right now, you need to be doing this. If you're not, you still need to be taking an active approach to building your personal and professional network. And the interesting thing about this is that the tactical side of networking for a particular job gets much, much easier if you've taken the time in advance to build a solid professional network when you didn't need it, and in fact, when other people needed it from you. So a specific thing you do during a specific period of time, how you generally form a network. And this second thing is a much longer conversation. I'd love to have at some point. But I just say that to say, there's nothing wrong with the tactical networking. You're going to need to do it sometimes.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Randa, you are, like you said, currently in the midst of the process. But I know that you have done networking for years, since you were a student, and I first met you as a student at Biola. Our conversations were about networking. So can you tell us a little bit about your networking journey, how it's been impactful for you over your career as well as currently in your job search?
Yeah, I'll first start by saying, I know in my intro that I said I've done 80 informational interviews between March and now, but I also did vote that networking gives me anxiety and I don't really like it. So I want to be super honest with everybody on here too, that while I've done this, it really has forced me to do things. I'm actually an introvert. But I am professionally extroverted. So I've really had to force myself to kind of step into this space that because of COVID and how the job market has shifted, I've really had to be intentional. I'm a huge fan of LinkedIn. I've been using that since 2009, I think, when I first started at Biola, way back when I was meeting Tiffany and sitting in her office asking her for advice. And I got my first internship off of LinkedIn. I was an advertising intern for Honda, and that came up through a LinkedIn posting that I saw. And then now in COVID times, I've really been using, if you don't know, LinkedIn has an alumni tool, and it's its best kept secret, but it's amazing. And so you can really target alumni and people that went to your school. In my case, and people that went to both of the schools that I went to. And I've been messaging people who went to my school who are either working at the companies that I'm interested in or in roles that I'm interested in. So there's kind of two distinctions there where one, let's say I'm interested in working at Disney, I'm messaging people that work at Disney, even if they're an engineer and I'm in communications, just because I'm trying to they might know somebody at Disney who's in communications, and you never know who people know. So I've really been doing that, and just growing who I've been talking to, and really trying to hear people's stories. I'm very intentional about who I reach out to. And it's kind of great because you just start off with a little message, a little blurb. Every time you connect to somebody, make sure you're sending a message. I know Cassandra will probably tell you that too. Make sure you're introducing yourself, but it's been really great for me using LinkedIn, particularly. That's how I've been networking during COVID, just to grow my connections. And all of the interviews I've had have been because of LinkedIn connections. I had an interview at noon today, and it was because someone who went to Biola forwarded my resume to a hiring manager, and someone who went to USC sent me a referral link. So having both of those connections got me the interview that I had this morning.
That's amazing. That's a huge success story. So for those of you that haven't used this function in LinkedIn, if you want to find the alumni tool, just type in, there's a bar at the top, a search bar, type in Biola University, click on it, and then there's a menu option for alum, and you can literally see every alum of Biola who is on LinkedIn. and you can do keyword searches and search by major, search by when they were at Biola. It's really, really powerful. So hopefully you all can tap into that. So Randa, you mentioned you have done 80 informational interviews. Can you talk about what an informational interview is and how should we be approaching informational interviews specifically for those that are job seeking?
Yeah. I think going back to what Cassandra said, you go into it really seeking nothing other than to hear somebody's story. But you do have intention behind that. I'm not just talking to people that like really can't at this point bring me any kind of networking options. I'm really targeting specific people, but I have a set of 4 questions that I have that I ask people. So basically I'm on LinkedIn using that alumni tool, and I'm messaging and targeting specific people. And I just say something like, hi, my name's Randa. I graduated from Biola in 2013, current COVID job seeker, would love to have a conversation with you if that's an option. And something very basic and very simple. And I highly suggest throwing COVID in there because people just feel more guilty or kind these days when you say COVID. So say that you're a job seeker, say that you've been trying to find a job during a pandemic, and people are more likely to click on your response. That's been the case for me. I've tested this out. But yeah, just asking people, and then I just say, hey, like would love to talk with you. If they say yes, we set up a time. And then I have a basic set of 3 or 4 questions that I ask people either over the phone or via video. And that is one new connection that I have. So that's basically an informational interview, just asking for somebody's time and then asking them a few questions, whether it's about the job that they're currently at. What's it been like working during COVID? That's a good one because people feel like they can talk about themselves and that you really care. And I just ask, I don't ever ask if there's any job options. I'm just not as forward. And Cassandra's shaking her head no. So the expert is saying don't do that. But I do very much ask like, what's it like to work at the company? And I always end with, who do you know that might be a good option for me to talk to as well?
Yeah, Cassandra, any other advice? You look like eager to jump in.
I know, I'm like, I love informational interviews. So first off, informational interviews for the introverts, this should take away so much of the pressure because it's not going to some big event or even a Zoom happy hour. I've been on some Zoom happy hours lately with some real dominant extroverts. And even I was like, I can't talk in this group, right? It's hard when it's a big group setting. This is so much more approachable because it's one-on-one. And you come with questions. So you ask the question and they start talking. Now, I will say, I totally agree with Randa. You never ask, are there any openings? Or, oh, if you hear of anything, could you pass me along? However, this is a 2-way conversation. So be ready, and I'm sure Randa is, be ready to talk about yourself. And you're not going to ever ask for a job, but hopefully they're a giving person and are gonna say, well, tell me a little bit more about you. And you better know what you want them to know about you, which should include, well, you know, like in Randa's case, I just got my degree, master's degree in communications. I'm really looking at working in a communications department inside a major corporation. And so I've been looking at tech and this, that's sort of my next thing. Like drop in something that's going to help them place you. You didn't ask them for a job. But now that I know what you want, the easier it is for something to jog my memory to help you. It may not be today, it may not be a week from now, but a month from now, something comes across my desk and I go, oh my gosh, oh, I need to find Randa on LinkedIn and see if she's still looking, right? So you're never gonna ask for something, but don't be afraid to slip in what you're looking for in your response in that conversation.
Great advice. Yeah, so Rob, I want to hear from you as a professional. I know that you have been approached by a lot of people because of the field that you're in and because of your position. Can you talk about as a professional, what do you appreciate when somebody reaches out to you when they're networking or asking for an informational interview?
Sure, and I've actually had 3 informational interviews last week that were all people emailing me or reaching out to me on LinkedIn, very similar to the way Randa did. So I would say it really comes down to 2 things. It's be a professional and put in the work. And put in the work happens not during the actual informational interview. So back to Cassandra's point about like, if you're an introvert, is this for you? Yeah, because all of the work that's necessary to really set yourself apart is stuff that you do alone prior to the interview. So be a professional and do the work. And by be a professional, there's a couple of things there. One of them is be flexible. Ask once the person has said, yes, I have time and I'd love to talk to you, just ask them what time is best for them and work around their schedule. Second, start the meeting in time and end it on time. It is on you to end it on time. If you start it late, that will be slightly annoying. If you end it late, now you've impacted the rest of that person's calendar for the day. So starting and ending on time is up to you. And then the last thing, professionalism, is just sending a thank you note. Doesn't have to be handwritten, doesn't have to be an engraved, whatever. It's just a nice little LinkedIn or email, and there's all kinds of great resources for how to write a tight, short thank you note. But those are the three things of like being a professional. When it comes to putting in the work, really it's about you carrying the conversation. So if you've asked for the informational interview, my assumption is that you're going to put in the work to make the conversation happen and make the conversation flow. So I'll come there ready to talk and be gregarious, but I expect you to have questions, and for those questions to be specific to my company. It doesn't necessarily have to be something like, hey, you guys are an integrated designer and manufacturer of semiconductors. What do you do internally in accounting to make sure that your gross margins can be benchmarked against a competitor that's not vertically integrated, right? Maybe that's the question. It doesn't have to be like crazy like that, right? But it should be something like, hey, I saw in the news, yada, yada, yada. And it can be as simple as, I was reading your annual earnings report. I don't understand what this sentence means at all. Say that. That's great. We're happy to teach. We're happy to explain things. But yeah, have pre-written company-specific questions. Read up on the company, and more than anything, you carry the load of the conversation. So just like what Rand was saying, you need to have those questions pre-written. I would usually go in with like 5, 6, or 7, and if it was going well, I wouldn't get past 2. But because you ask follow-up questions as you listen, and I guess I didn't really think about that in advance, but that's a big thing too. Just make sure that you're listening so you can ask the questions, ask follow-ups, because the follow-ups are really where a lot of the great conversation is going to happen. So be professional, do the work on the front end, and then the last thing I would say, very similar to what Cassandra said, an informational interview can turn into a real interview very quickly, and all that happens is we're talking, and I say, "Tell me about yourself." And for those of you who've done like a lot of job interviews, tell me about yourself is not the most important question, but it's the first important question in an interview. So if you're ready to do an informational interview, be ready to give a tight 2-minute answer to tell me about yourself and a tight 2-minute answer to give me an example of a significant accomplishment. Right? Be professional, do the work in advance, and be ready for an informational interview to turn into a real interview.
Yeah, that's such great advice. Yeah, Cassandra.
Can I add to that? So tell me about yourself. Y'all, practice it before you go. As someone who did casting for 7 years, I have tested this. If I turned one of your cameras on right now and brought you on screen and said, tell me about yourself, you would go, like, we don't naturally talk about ourselves. So as silly as you'll feel, getting ready that morning or whatever, practice. What are the key things you want them to know about you when you tell them about yourself? You cannot wing that. We think we can, you can't.
No, my
absolutely
is 1 minute and 55 seconds long, and rehearsed from just like recording myself watching it.
I have to say, I expect nothing less from a financial analyst. Of course, you know exactly how long it is.
Randa had said something really interesting, which was that her last question is always about who else should I be talking to? And that's exactly right. That should be the last question, and you should ask that. What I will say is that most of the time, if you're doing an informational interview with someone else who's been in your shoes and done lots of informational, from the beginning of the conversation, I'm thinking about that and thinking about who I could connect you to. So don't think it's awkward to ask, because I'm trying to get you there. Chances are, if we're 10 minutes into the meeting and I don't already have a list of people I want to introduce you to, it's because I haven't heard enough about your story to know who best to introduce you to, right? But go ahead and ask. That's one of those questions that some people would think is too forward. I think particularly if it's going well, if you're able to ask a lot of follow-up questions and you're developing a good rapport, that's a perfectly valid question, and it's one that I expect and one that I'll be ready for.
Yeah, that's such great advice from all of you. I'm gonna sum it up a little bit. That it's relational, it's very conversational. People love sharing about their journey, sharing about their job, giving advice, and especially as an alum during this time, and our new grads in particular. And if you are reaching out to Biola alumni, there's that warm lead. Biola alum are of course gonna want to help other Biola alum. So one thing that I would just interject in there is, yes, start with the warm leads. If you have some connection to somebody, whether it's a Biola alum or whether it's a family member or a friend of a family member, a friend of a friend, and there's something there, start there. Start in your comfort zone. If you're new to this, if you're new to informational interviewing, especially introverts, yeah, start in your comfort zone and practice and build up. You may not want to like start day one with the CEO of the company that you're trying to reach. So practice. There is also, what I'm hearing from everybody, really just a balance of, it is relational, but it also is professional. And so this is your first impression with somebody that can connect you with possibly that hiring manager. So you also want to be really prepared, practiced, polished, comfortable, and do it in a really appropriate and relational way. Yeah, so are there any other tips or advice for those that are still feeling like, hey, I feel like I'm imposing, I don't want to bother people? Any other thoughts on that?
I think I would say that's from my experience, because I am a woman, that as women, we typically feel like we can't reach out more. I know that in even like the interviews I've been doing, I hear a lot from men, like they're way more like they process differently, and they're like, yeah, I'll apply for this job that I'm not at all qualified for. But as women, like we don't necessarily think that, like we don't do that. So I would just say, like, take the chance. I will give you guys an example. I've been on LinkedIn, and somebody I know posted something, and I saw the chief communications officer of Intuit had commented. So I messaged him, and I got an email today from his assistant, and we have a call next week. Because I like just took it upon myself to send him a message. So I think, like, I even tell myself, like, you have to just take the risk. And it was super respectful. I was like, I'm sure you're very busy, especially at the height of COVID. Like, I'm sure you're very busy, but if you have 15 minutes, I would love to hear your story and pick your brain. And he responded, was like, send me an email, give me your email address, my assistant will contact you. And it happened. So I would definitely say to women, like, just be more bold, because oftentimes it is just harder for us to do that. We just kind of process things sometimes a little bit differently. And I know that's for sure been my experience.
Yeah, I would add to that. Okay, so first off, Randa, I'm sorry. Please never say again, can I pick your brain? There's like a whole set of articles and videos out there saying like people don't like hearing that one anymore, but I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to hear more about what you do. Awesome things to say. I don't know why, it's just a weird pet peeve with certain people. So there you go. I think too, you have to realize you're not imposing. If you're not asking, you're robbing people the chance to serve. Like, people want to help other people. Yep. And people also love to talk about themselves. So give people that opportunity. The way I like to think about it is, and this will go to the loose tie thing. If your mom's best friend's kid, who's in high school right now, you've met him at like a birthday party or something, right? You're not close with this kid, emails you and says, hey, I'm looking at schools and I was considering Biola, but I'm not sure, my mom said you went there. Would you take 15 minutes to talk to me? You would be like, yeah, of course. Like, of course, let me answer your questions. Let me tell you about Biola. We don't know each other that well, but of course, I want to tell you. So it's the same thing. You write an alum and say, hey, we went to the same school, by any chance, could you tell me about your experience at this company? They're most likely going to be willing to help. Now, I also want to say, if you get a no, I think everyone is scared of the no. or even the ghosting. They don't get back to you at all. You are not dead to them. I wish this is something someone had told me in college. Like, you didn't ruin it. You didn't screw up your chances. We have no clue what happened on the other end. You don't know if you went to their spam folder. You don't know if they checked LinkedIn 3 years ago and never looked at it again. You don't know if they have a policy of they don't answer any of these, because if they did it for so-and-so's kid, they'd have to do it for everybody. We don't know. Just go in with the confidence that as long as you were polite, you're fine. You've done nothing disrespectful. No's are just sort of, or nothing, no response at all, is just kind of a part of life that we have to get used to. But for every no, you get closer to a yes. If you probably didn't send that email, you wouldn't send the next email. So you have to send that one to send the next email to the next person who's going to say, yes, I will get there. But you're not imposing. People remember what it's like to be in your shoes. And we really do want to help other people, you know? So keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's great advice. Don't disqualify yourself before even asking, right? Because, you know, like Randa is saying, everybody has really said that person often will connect you to another person. So then you are not only disqualifying yourself from that conversation and what you're going to learn from that person, but also what you might learn and the things that you might gain from all the other people that they're, you know, going to introduce you to. So yeah, I did want to comment on what Randa said about women and her encouragement. There is actually data that shows that women are less confident to reach out, and specifically job applications. Women typically don't apply for jobs until they're at least 90% qualified for a job, whereas men will apply when they're more like 60 to 70% qualified. And so as women, I think that's helpful for us to know, so that we can remind ourselves of that when we're questioning, oh, should I reach out? Oh, do I have enough experience? Oh, am I, you know, this, that, or the other? Just know that if you're not doing it, somebody else probably is, and you want to be the one in that conversation, right? So yeah, just definitely encourage you all to take that advice from Randa. So in our last couple of minutes here, can you, maybe Cassandra, can you break down everything that we've talked about into like a quick action plan? What are the concrete steps that we should be taking when thinking about networking?
Yeah, so I really like the idea of trying to start with 10 people. 10 people you know who either work at the company that you want to work at, like Randa gave the example of Disney, or do a job or work in the department that you would like, the type of department you would like to work in someday. It doesn't have to be, I really like that you brought up, like, you don't have to talk to the CEO. And while you should be targeted, don't ignore the assistant or even the intern. Y'all, the assistant is moving on in a year. You probably want that position. Like, you need to keep those kinds of things in mind too. Use those people, but try and come up with 10 names. It might be loose ties, like a friend of a friend, or if you can only think of 2, go for LinkedIn, use that alumni tool, go and search the companies you're interested in, the titles you're interested in, etc., and find people that you can reach out to. Now, if you're reaching out on LinkedIn, you're gonna send that connection request, and we always add a message. And this should be short. So we're gonna do a 2-part process. You're gonna send the message that says, introducing yourself, like, hi, I'm Cassandra. I'm a current Biola grad. And I love the, like, drop in COVID. Like, I'm a current grad in this COVID-19 job market. I'm still, like, I will say the one thing with that is they might think you're trying to get a job at that point. You want to say something of like, I'm really trying to use this time to explore what's out there. I would love to connect. That's it. It's like 2 sentences. Then once they've connected, you can send a message and say, thank you so much for connecting. As I mentioned, I'm really trying to figure out some things that I might be interested in doing in the future. Compliment them on how their job interests you. And say, similar to what Randa said already, you know, I would love to talk with you for a little bit if you had some time. I do like to give a time frame. You know your industry better than others. Having worked in entertainment, it was not crazy to say, and anytime in the next couple of months, because people would be that booked out. But it's okay to say, I would love to, do a phone interview in the next week or two if possible. Mm-hmm. Let me know if you're open. Make this, I said that kind of choppy. Honestly, this is my rule with emails. It needs to sound conversationally polite. What I mean by that is, can you read it out loud and it sounds like you were talking to another human being, but you were polite about it? As long as you did that, you're fine. Don't worry. I think sometimes, especially new grads, feel a little like tense of, did I sound professional enough? As long as you were polite, you should be fine. So you're going to send them that email and then prepare your questions. What are the things you're curious about? Their job, how they got there, what advice they have for someone starting out. Come with those questions prepared and then be ready to listen. And like Rob said, afterwards, you got to send that thank you. Now, I will say, in COVID times, yes, email or LinkedIn message. When we get back, hopefully to the point where we get to meet people in person again, and people will be going back to their offices, write the handwritten thank you note. It will stand out, because what do we do with cards? We put them where we can see them. And so then you are staying top of mind to that person. Plus, everyone loves getting mail that's not a bill. So you're not sending those to their home. People get confused on this. You're Google mapping the business address and sending it there. But really, start with 10 people. But if it helps, right now I want you to think of one. Who is the one person you're going to email or reach out to on LinkedIn tomorrow? Start with one.
That's awesome. Thanks, Cassandra. That was great. Mm-hmm. Right now, we're going to transition to a couple of the questions that were submitted early when everybody registered. So one of them asked about going into a different career field than they already are in. And so they were concerned about not having connections or not just starting with zero network. What advice would you give for building a network outside of their current industry? And I know, Rob, you have some experience with this. Do you want to share some advice?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I did, and then beyond that, I'll tell you what you could do as a second thing. What I did was I went and found a pipeline. So the MBA at USC is good. You learn a lot, et cetera, et cetera. I went there for the pipeline. I went there because employers came there looking to hire people rather than me going out to them, right? A lot of it is the credentialing and the signaling to an industry that this is a pool of people you should hire from. So in my opinion, the best way to do an industry transition is to go to the pipeline where you have the highest percentage chance of getting the job in that particular field. That said, again, we've talked about it so many times tonight, people want to be helpful. So if you're a career transitioner and come out and say that, don't ask me for a job at Intel, but if you're saying like, hey, I've been doing, marketing in the toy industry, and now I want to do operations analysis in semiconductors, that's fine. Just say, I'm really interested in operations in semiconductors, and would you like to talk about that? So I think there's a lot of it. You have to demonstrate seriousness, but that's different than demonstrating expertise. So it's about effort. It's about not asking things that you could Google very, very easily. And then just, again, going back to the whole preparation and doing the work in advance, show that you're not just asking the first 2 or 3 questions that you ever thought of about this industry, but show me the 2 or 3 questions that you're asking because you know something about this industry, because you've gone and learned something and found that even with what you learned, there's something else you want to know about. So again, I don't want to sugarcoat it. The best way to transition to a new industry is by finding an appropriate pipeline where you're not a 1 in 100 shot, and now you're like a 4 in 5 shot. But if you're not going to do that, informational interviews work very well still, and they work well when you've done your research. I guess the other thing is part of your goal, if you're career transitioning, at least for me, when I transitioned out of the military and into finance, one of the big things was I didn't know what all the different verticals were in different companies. I couldn't, even in finance, for instance, I didn't know the difference between private equity and venture capital and investment banking, which are three, like private equity and venture capital are pretty similar, but the difference between them and sell-side investment banking is very, very significant. And I didn't know that. And so for me, the informational interview process wasn't so much about finding a job as it was defining the landscape and deciding exactly which direction I want to go. And so that was almost like a pre-interview. Like there was this whole period of time doing informational interviews to figure out the landscape and where I wanted to go before I started doing that more tactical networking for the position.
Yeah, so it sounds like, and this is a theme that we've heard, really taking a posture of learning and exploring, while at the same time you're doing some work outside. You're not relying solely on this person to provide you all your learning, but you are coming with this, I'm exploring, I'm learning, I want to know more about, yeah, that's awesome.
So can I answer, because somebody asked in chat and I was already thinking about it, like, we don't all have to go to grad school to find a pipeline. I would say an industry association is a great way to do it. So literally whatever industry you want to be in, there's an association for it. It may cost you a couple $100s to join it. Once you get in the industry, make your company pay for it, but it might be worth it to fast track into a place where you can connect with other people in that industry instead of searching on LinkedIn. Also, the fact that you're a part of it will show I'm really serious about transitioning to this. There tend to also be professional development opportunities with it. So it's a good way to connect without having to, like, don't think the answer is you have to go back to school, even though I did and Rob did, but it's not that way for every industry. So join an industry association to kind of hit that pipeline. And then I want to make one clarification, just because I've met with so many students about this. When Rob's talking about, like, do your research and then come with educated questions off of that, it's not stump the interviewer.
Right.
Okay? I get students who will be like, so what do you really think about blah, blah, like all of a sudden the tone changes. You're not there to stump them. It's ask questions that show that you've researched and you already know the basics. And now you're curious about this topic you can't find an answer to. Not trying to, I don't know, Rob, if you've had that, but I've seen that happen where they're like, let me ask you this controversial thing right now. Let me see if you really know your stuff. It's like, that's not the kind of interview this is. So don't try and stump anybody, just sound educated.
Can you address this particular controversy in your industry?
Yes.
No, that's like literally the one thing I can't talk about, actually.
Yes. No, I told a student she was going to a job interview and she was going for a major talent agency, and it was right in the middle of Me Too. And she, like the Me Too movement, and she was going to ask the person at the interview about, what are you doing about the Me Too movement and diversity and blah, blah, blah in the workplace? And I went, do you think this person who are you? Like, he is not going to give you an answer. This is doing nothing for you. So those are questions to ask friends at other times, just not in particular situations.
Great, thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
But I did end up in semiconductors, but when I was interviewing out of grad school, I interviewed pretty extensively at a company that's a medical device manufacturer in Orange County. And so I'm having an informational interview about marketing transcatheter heart valve replacements. Like, I know nothing about this. And it was really helpful for me to just walk into those interviews, and I don't really know what a transcatheter aortic valve replacement is. I mean, I've gone and learned a little bit about it, but I don't really know. But I know that their company and this other company are both kind of in the same space. And so I can ask questions about how you're positioning yourself against your competition. I can ask questions about, what are you doing in your research and development to make sure that you're relevant, 5-6 years from now? And how's that impacting your cost structure? Like, these are questions that you don't actually have to know a lot about the company. You just have to have done a very small amount of research. And don't try to pretend like you're a new expert in something. Just be genuinely curious.
Being curious, there's so much to that. Not only in networking, but just in your relationships, right? Being curious about, being interested in the other person, right? It's huge.
Oh, I'll shut up in just a minute. But last thing about the pipelines. Yes, I went to grad school. Yes, I went there to get the pipeline. No, I didn't pay sticker. If you're thinking about paying $120,000 to go to grad school, call me first.
Okay, yeah, that's funny. Neither did I.
Guy. Yeah.
Mine was tuition remission. Mine was completely free. So if you're going back,
me as well,
find ways.
Right.
Yeah. All right, I have a question for Randa, and Randa, this is not one that I shared with you before, so I apologize. But one of the questions submitted was about networking with an insanely busy schedule, and balance and self-care. And I know that you mentioned you just finished grad school, but you were also doing this before you graduated, and you're juggling a lot. So can you talk about just any advice that you would have about balance and self-care and how to integrate networking in and throughout?
Yeah, and I'll give you guys a little bit of context. So I was finishing my degree at USC, finished on May 15th, but from October to February, I was planning a very large conference. They hired me in October. It was in February, and there were 200 people, 8 speakers over the course of 3 days. So I am full in planning this conference, networking for jobs, and trying to finish a degree. And it's like my capstone class. So, super busy with all of that. And I just had to kind of pace myself. And I will be very honest and say that I am guilty of stressing out. So there have been many spurs of 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. LinkedIning for me. But also this has been very successful. So while I am saying it was came out of stress, I've got a lot of responses from it where I would be on LinkedIn between the hours 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Because I was stressed about finding a job, and would be trying to connect to different people. And I think I would send out 50 requests or something like that. Again, they were still targeted, still using the Alumni tool to kind of find out who I was reaching out to, but I was super stressed. I think especially at the beginning of COVID when everything shut down, it was really, really discouraging to have come out of the best job market that we'd seen in forever to whatever this is today. And then also I started school during this kind of a job market. I started school in 2009, and we just were coming out of the last recession. So I'm I've already been here. I'm familiar with this. Not trying to do this again. But I really have had to pace myself, and I try not to feel guilty if I spend 2 days not networking. And I'm super type A. So for me, that is a lot of work to adjust my own expectations of myself. But I've really had to work on saying, okay, and I think what's cool about Biola is I can say this, if the job is for you, the Lord will open the doors. And I've had a lot of people in my prayer circle who have reminded me that you don't want a job that's not for you. And so I think that's just something I consistently say to myself, especially when I get in those crazy moods where I'm oh my gosh, I still don't have a job. I've been doing this for 4 months. What's going on? What's wrong with what I'm doing? And I just go back to if God has a job for you, and he already knew COVID was going to happen. He already knew that you were going to be in this job market. So I just had to really remind myself of that. And I honestly write out little prayers to myself sometimes too. Just I have a little mantra that I say, God's never going to leave you. You're not alone. He's got this. And I just say it to myself when I get discouraged. And to be honest, as somebody who's currently seeking a full-time role, there have been more moments of discouragement than I would like to share, but there've been a lot of them.
Yeah, thank you for your transparency and honesty in that, and the encouragement. I think that's great. Yeah, Cassandra.
Can I add just a quick thing to that? Because we've talked a lot about the informational interview, which is a key cornerstone step. But let's remember that we said this is relationship building. And so going with the idea of how do you maintain the network if you're busy with all these things, not everything is an hour-long virtual coffee or even a 20-minute coffee. It's texting somebody and saying, hey, you came to mind today, how are you doing? Or 3 months after a coffee, just following up and saying, just wanted to see what's going on with you, or I read that book you told me about. So not everything is overly time-consuming. A lot of the follow-up steps can be squeezed into standing in line at Target. So keep that in mind, that it's not all as intensive as that first piece.
Right.
And I always like to remind people, you set the goals of how many of these informational interviews you're doing. Like Randa is high achieving on this. She is all in. I am so impressed and so amazed, but don't compare yourself to somebody else. If your schedule allows for one a week, one a month, one this summer, like, you know what works for you and what's pushing yourself and what's overly exerting yourself. So keep that in mind, but just remember, it's not all as intensive as this first part.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. We're coming to the end of our time. So I want to end and then transition back to Dawn with this question. Somebody asked, what other ways besides LinkedIn can I connect with people and network? And so I think this is a really great opportunity to talk about Biola Hub. I'm sure, hopefully, all of you have heard about Biola Hub. You hopefully have gotten an email. But if you haven't, Dawn, can you share with us more about Biola Hub and what it is? Dawn, are you there?
Yes, I would love to do that. Thank you. I am here. Thank you. You getting me?
Yes. A little delayed, but yes.
I'm hoping.
Yeah,
Well,
you're there.
Okay. Okay, good. Yes. So quickly, LinkedIn has, in the alumni tool, has somewhere around 26,000 Biola alumni in there. So you have a wealth of Biola alumni that you can reach out to. However, LinkedIn, generally, people use it for their own career advancement. So it's sort of a secondary use to help people, although when you can find those people, they will help you and they want to help you. So that's LinkedIn. Biola Hub, we launched in January this year, which is in some sense a very similar platform to LinkedIn, but it's only Biola. We have many fewer alumni in there at this point, but it's growing honestly every day. We have about 2,000 alumni in there, but they have signed up for Biola Hub because they want to help the Biola community grow, advance in their career, and also find connections for themselves. So I really encourage you to take a look at Biola Hub. It's got a job board. It's got an opportunity to ask for mentoring if you're interested in that, or if you feel you're in the place to offer mentorship to someone else who may be job searching or be recently out of school. It's going to be a great tool. So bottom line, Biola Hub has its particular use, LinkedIn has its particular use, and we want to encourage you to be active on both of them.
Awesome. Well, can I before you end us here, I just want to say thank you to our panelists. Rob, Randa, Cassandra, thank you so much for all the wisdom that you've shared. And this was a great conversation. Really excited about seeing hopefully how the alum that are on the call are gonna take what you've shared and apply it in their own lives. So yeah, just wanted to say thank you. And then Dawn, will you close us out?
Sure will. Hey, Tiffany, thank you for putting this together. And really, I felt like a great conversation tonight. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I do want to say to our panelists, a particular thank you. You are giving back to Biola when you share your experience and you help other alumni. So that is meaningful to us in the Alumni Relations office. And thank you for doing that. I know you'll continue doing it, and it's important, and I want to just let you know that. All right, before we sign off, just a couple quick resources. We talked about Biola Hub, we talked about LinkedIn, but use the career development website. Tons of tools. You can do practice interviews, you can videotape yourself, you can ask questions. Use the career development website, and then also look at the Alumni Relations website too. We have a lot of tools there, and that's where you will find Biola Hub. I want to encourage you to stay with us on this summer series. Our next meeting will be 2 weeks from tomorrow night, actually. It will be June the 30th on Tuesday, same time, same bat channel. And this time we will be focusing on building a supportive community. A supportive community at work, a supportive community at home, a supportive community in your church life, a number of different facets of learning how to put support around you. In some ways, it's a bit of an extension of this networking conversation. So Quinn is going to put a chat in right now. If you still need to sign up for that, please do that. One last thing, we did not answer all the questions that came in, but we are going to answer them. So later this week, you will get an email, as I said earlier, with all the answers and also ways to contact all of us if you want to continue the conversation. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to our listeners tonight. Hope to see you in 2 weeks, and have a great evening and a great week. Good night.